Hello, and welcome to episode 153 of Checkpoint Chat. My name is Alessandro Barbosa. I'm joined, as always, by Matthew Figuera.
I swear that each week we start later and later because it's just winter.
We are just keeping up with the sun. The sun gets up later and later.
It does. Well, I had a good laugh though because this is the routine that we've fallen into now for listeners who obviously wouldn't know what goes on behind the scenes. So you and I are meant to record at 8:30 on a Saturday. And every night before, I literally just send you like 8:30 question mark, and you'll be like, yes, 8:30, whatever. But without fail, every morning, like every Saturday, I go for a run, get home, like I'm going to shower. It's 8:15. I should be out by like 25 past, maybe half past, going to get dressed, everything. But without fail, every week, I only get on at like 22, 1:45. Today, though, holy shit, I was just standing in that shower. It was so cold. When I climbed out,
taking up all that good hot water.
Yeah, but when I climbed out, I looked at my phone, I was like, oh my God, it's 10 to 9 already. Holy shit. Like, I'm so sorry.
Listen, I mean, half the time I'm the one that gets on second, and that's mostly because like I set my alarm for 8, but then I'm lazy, and then you message me like I'm just jumping in the shower, and I'm like, even me, and I haven't even moved out of bed. Like, I'm just chilling there.
You say even me like you're just about to climb into the shower.
Oh, no. When I say even me, that's like a good 5-10 minutes before I get into the shower. Like,
oh boy.
Maybe. So this is why we're always late. But, we have this understanding. You say 8:30 on a Friday, and we know that it's never going to be.
It's never going to happen.
But we wake up at I wake up closer to 8:30. You get home from your run at 8:30. That's
exactly.
What we need. So we've got this understanding.
It's more to keep us in line from starting at like 9:30, 10. Just a reminder, like, hey,
that's way too late. Yeah,
like just get those eyes open. Let's get going.
I mean, to be fair, you used to back in the heyday. Drive all the way to my place to record, yeah. And there were times where you'd be like, I'm outside, and I'm like, fuck, I haven't even got out of bed.
You're like, oh, that's my alarm. Oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. So,
amazing.
this is definitely a better scenario when compared to that. So,
well, it's the same. We've fallen into this routine, and the same's going to happen when we look. I don't know if we'll record in person again because it's just so convenient to record remotely. I think we've nailed it now. But so we can keep this trend going, if we want to. With work though, it's like I'm so used to just rolling out of bed into my morning meeting. It's going to be really hard when that's sort of like abolished, or I don't know what my company's going to do, but I don't think 100% remote work will be allowed. I foresee like a hybrid system. But those mornings when I'm expected to like roll out of bed and actually get dressed and be presentable and drive again, I'm not ready for that. I'm just.
You're gonna cry.
I'm gonna be so sad. I'm literally getting an hour of my day back just by not having to drive to the office there and back. So yeah,
it's a big thing. I mean, we had a meeting this week with the powers that be at our company, and they seem to suggest that we are going to do a hybrid approach going forward. So
that's cool though.
That's cool. Like going to the office 2 or 3 times a week, if that. Again, obviously, you and I are in the same boat where our companies are consultancies essentially, and we work for clients. So if the clients have certain demands, you have to work with those demands. So if the clients I'm working for demands us to be in the office 5 days a week, then that's what it is, which fucking sucks.
Why would a client demand that though? That's so mean.
I mean, things happen. Clients have weird ideas.
Things happen. That's how we're going to explain this away. It's just things happen. Do you know what
things happen. I like my job. I don't like talking shit about the people who pay for all my fancy podcasting equipment.
Wow.
On this podcast.
Let's just trash talk your bosses right now. They don't listen.
Yeah,
my
right
bosses
now,
don't listen. But you know what? I like my bosses. They're cool people, so it's fine.
That's good.
Now, if they're
That's,
listening, they're going to give me a raise, which is cool.
Oh, they're better. I mean, they're getting free promotion here on this great podcast.
Nice.
About how good their leadership skills are. That
Exactly.
is promotion material. When you get put up for a promotion, they're like, what have you done in the past year that's great? And you just slide them the snippets like on a cassette tape, so they know it's for real.
I just fed the good news of the company to all our gaming listeners. They don't give a shit about advertising or communications or anything, but you know what? I put the message out there, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. And then
No
they'll be like,
publicity
wait,
is
why
bad
is the
publicity.
snippet so... They're like, why is the snippet so short? You're like, you don't have to worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You could listen to you don't have to listen to the whole 2-hour podcast. It's fine. Trust me. That's all it's about. Yeah. Do you know what? Remote work. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, I'm quite a fan. I mean, we both are in that scenario where we work in the same like office as our significant others, and people have asked me how I manage that and we manage that, and like I think it's pretty simple. Like, you just respectful with space, and that's it. I mean, I get some people, maybe it doesn't work out because maybe your job means that you need to be on a call like 24/7 or whatever. But like when we have meetings together, it's pretty chill. And on top of it, like I've often told this to Shani because she sometimes gets stressed out on like when we both in a meeting and like talking over each other. But like people on the other side of the calls all understand you at home. So if someone is like really dickish about that, you're gonna be like, well, listen, we're all working from home. What do you expect? Like, honestly. But generally people are
Must I build
chill with
another
that shit.
study? What is this?
Yeah, exactly. Give me a raise to build another study.
My thing though is that like, so I hear you. So like I know people ask like, oh, how do you share the same space for so long? But some people are asking from a practicality point of view of like, isn't it if you have meetings together, whatever. But some people are like, yeah, how do you deal with each other? It's like imagine being forced to sit next to the person you love all day. Like, shit, that sounds awful, hey? Like, come on.
People make it sound real bad. Like,
Yeah.
why did you marry this person in the first place then? Like, honestly, like,
Yeah.
I get it. Maybe we're naive and young in that sense. What I do get is the challenge is if you have kids.
Oh yeah,
especially
look,
if you have like a smallish space.
Then
that's
I think
hard,
those parents are like, please, can we go back to the office, please?
Yeah, dear God.
Beg of you.
I think parents of like, especially like smaller kids, like 5, 6, or whatever, even younger, that can't like just you can't just like put them down and expect them to carry on with their lives. Like, that must be so challenging.
Yeah.
I do not envy parents who are in that position of like trying to homeschool a grade 1 or 2 kid.
Well,
like, that sounds awful.
My brother and sister-in-law, and then also my sister and brother-in-law, Lenska's siblings, they had lockdown babies. So can you imagine? I think the flip side of that is that, like my brother said, it's been really nice to be at home to spend time with the newborn. I mean, and that was like he was born last year. Now it's a year and a half later. I think there's like definitely a different kind of bond there because my brother has got to be at home with him. But I hear you.
It's like not paternity leave, but
No,
it's like you're at home far more.
Like you're available if need be. You're around. But yeah, I hear you. I can't imagine. It's like I phoned my brother the other day to ask him something. And I phoned it around, must have been at about like 7, just after 7. And he didn't answer. I'm like, oh, I know he's probably like bathing the kids, whatever. And then he phones me back 10, 15 minutes later. He's like, yep, put them in the bath at about 5:45 and look at the time now. It's been a process. Like over an hour. It's like, yeah, got to get them in, got to get them out, got to change them, got to feed them. Like, yeah, that's hectic.
Oh, listen, I get that. When I was a small kid, I loved being in the bath. That was like... You had little toys, you were fucking around, it got a bit cold, you get some warm water back in there. It's a good time. I guess from the other end, it's maybe not so riveting, but...
Wash behind your ears and climb into bed so I can go play games.
Yeah. and you've got this child in the bath with like a car going like everywhere.
Like, I could be playing Trackmania right now.
Look how long I can hold my breath. Yeah. I mean, I like give my parents props for all the times like they took me to like swimming training like twice a week and just sat there for an hour while we doing fucking laps up and down a pool.
That's
And
my
that was
thing.
before smartphones. There's no social
Oh my
media to
gosh,
keep
you just
company
watch.
then.
Yeah, there's no Twitter to scroll. That's my thing. I think now, like, if I'm a parent one day, I just think of all the times I'm going to have to sit at school, do all these things that my parents did for me. And I'm like, how did they do it? Why?
I think that's why I mean parents always say like often you do something and they'll be like you won't understand until you have your own children.
Yeah.
And it's probably very true.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole different
something
world.
different. Yeah. Because you look at it from the
Yeah.
outside, you're like, why? Why would you do that?
Even if you can empathize and like understand, like you don't actually know what it is.
You don't
probably.
get it. Yeah.
But this Checkpoint Chat to talk about having children and video games.
Talk about cold weather, parenthood, and sometimes video games.
Sometimes video games, you know.
Occasionally, yeah.
It's a offbeat video game podcast. You don't always get what you come for here.
We're an alternate gaming podcast, okay?
Yeah, alternate. Yeah, I mean, you come here and you take what we give you. That's how it works.
This is a dictatorship.
This is a one-way conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually watched a series on Netflix called How to Become a Tyrant, which was
John Michael was telling me about it. So he was just enjoying it.
It's quite weirdly like structured. It's sort of like so it's narrated by Peter Dinklage, but it's like
that's awesome.
It's like a tongue-in-cheek like, oh, so you want to become a tyrant? Here are the rules to follow based on these other tyrants. So
wow,
kind of a weird structure, but yeah, learn some real fucked up shit about some fucked up tyrants over the course of history, and like they go into like North Korea, which is still ongoing, and that is a wild thing to see. Yeah, so, of course, John Michael would watch that. Like,
man
like
loves
his
his historical / political shows and podcasts. Man, what a guy!
And video games.
And
what
video
was that
games.
World War I shooter he kept talking about?
I cannot for the
now.
life of me remember it.
But I remember when we were playing Trackmania, he was talking about that game quite a bit.
Yeah, he loves his war simulators. But yeah, we do
maybe
talk about
he's on
games.
his way to becoming a tyrant.
I mean, you never know. Maybe he's watching it going, actually, I'd love to become a tyrant. Let's watch a show, How to Become a Tyrant. It's
like,
for me.
This is so easy. I can do this in my sleep.
I didn't even have to go to YouTube for
my
this.
entire life. I wonder if the FBI comes to your door. It's like, listen, you've been Googling how to become a tyrant quite a bit.
We're gonna cut you off right here. Yeah.
And you're like, FBI, why are you here? I'm in South Africa. How did you get here?
How did you get through border control? What?
Yeah,
What's going on here?
You have no jurisdiction here. Please
Oh my
leave.
goodness.
I know my rights.
Shit, I have the right to remain silent.
Can't get swatted when there's no SWAT in your country.
Nice.
Fucking loopholes. Hey.
Hey.
Video games. So, the game that I desperately wanted to talk about last week and couldn't just because timing and embargoes and everything. It actually feels like it's been like 2 weeks since this embargo dropped, even though it was only like Tuesday. That's the sort of week I've had. But Death's Door. I think it's made by a studio called Acid Nerve. I think that's their name.
Acid Nerve.
Yeah, their previous work, it's a fairly small studio. If I'm not mistaken, there's only like 2 people, and then they outsource a lot of different things. I've seen people saying, "Oh, Death's Door is made by 2 people." No, it's not. Go look at the credits. Like,
there's a lot of people.
It's design studios, maybe 2 people, but they outsource a lot of things, like as one does. But yeah, their previous game was Titan Souls, which I'm sure you've heard of.
I've heard of. I've not played it.
Yeah, same. So I know what it looks like. It's like a 2D, also like a 2D combat game, but it was a boss rush game. So similar to like Fury, I assume, where it's just bosses and whatever. So this is more akin to like I've seen people calling it a Zelda-like. I don't fully agree with that. I mean, there's dungeons and whatever, but to me it feels more like a Bastion in structure and style. It's an isometric third-person action game with a sort of like wide linear design. So you're plopped into several different hubs, and your progression through the hubs or your progression through the entire story is kind of like governed by the abilities you have at that time. So like the first hub you're in is called the Lost Cemetery, and there's 3 distinct routes you can take to get out of there, but you can only really take one with your abilities currently, so that's the route you take. So not a Metroidvania, so to speak, but like how adventure games progress, how a Zelda progresses, I guess. Like you can only access certain dungeons with certain things. So yeah, additionally, I've seen a lot of people asking if it's a roguelite. It's super not. It's an adventure game.
It's funny though, because I think when you and I watched the trailer a few months ago, like I think our immediate thought was, oh, it's a roguelite. Just because it looks oh, hello Lupin.
It kind of looked like the 2021 version of Hades. Like, oh, this is going to be Hades. This is a combat fighting game with hard looking enemies and tough combat. But yeah, it's not a roguelite. It is, I found it challenging, but not like super challenging. There were parts where I died, especially 1 or 2 bosses that gave me some trouble, but I didn't find it like oppressively challenging. But like when you
keeping with this tyrant theme.
Yes, exactly. But when you die, you don't lose currency, you don't lose weapons, you don't have to grind anything, or you don't have to restart. You just, you start at a you start at the last like door, so to speak, that you came through into the hub, which usually there's only like one in the hub that you're exploring, but in a sort of Souls-like style, as you progress through the hub, you unlock shortcuts that all lead back to that point.
Yeah.
So when you die, you can cut out large swaths of things that you've already progressed, which feels very nice. Like it's got that really satisfying like click where it's like you open up a shortcut, you're like, oh, the level's like folded on itself like this, and it's super.
So
super cool.
I've only played about an hour, well, I'll call it just shy of an hour of this game, and I've already seen that in the Lost Cemetery where it happens quite regularly actually, where you do like an area, you turn a corner, you're like, oh, this leads back right to that part over there. Then you adventure a bit further, and it somehow just loops back around in a very smart and clever way. Like, oh, if I die, I can just zip through this path over here. Really, I think, just from that alone, I'm like, damn, this is some pretty neat design.
Yeah, the level design is really good, and like the shortcuts end up like linking up with each other. So you'll unlock a path that links to another shortcut that you'll recognize, and you'll be like, okay, so when I die, I take this shortcut and then turn there. I think it's really cool. It's a neat means of progression because you're only tackling small bite-sized portions of each hub at a time. Because if you die, you can just cut out like a whole section. And it ties into the game's like the way it handles healing, which I think is very unique and quite interesting. So again, sort of like a Souls-like. So I want to stress, I say Souls-like. This game is not a Souls-like. I don't think it's hard in that way. You don't lose currency when you die, so you're not losing progression. But it has elements from its design that I think it adopts from a Souls-like. So, in a Dark Souls, you have your campfires where that's your only means of healing, and usually in there your shortcuts loop back to a campfire or a lantern in Bloodborne's sake. Here, each of the hubs has certain like pots, like a pot with like soil and stuff. And when you get to there, if you have a seed, you can plant a seed there that grows a flower that heals you. And those flowers regenerate every time you die. So what you can end up doing, depending on, so firstly, you have to find the seeds in the world, which aren't always, you find some naturally and some are like more outside the main sort of path. Yeah. And then you have to find a pot where you can plant them. And then you have to kind of think like, okay, the last time I planted a healing plant was like 2 or 3 sections back. So do I really need to spend a seed here and plant it here? Is this part hard enough that I think I'll need health when I, come back here? And it, I thought it was a really cool mechanic because you're basically playing risk and reward every time you come to these pots. Like if you have a seed, do you want to spend it here, or will there be a section further on that is more challenging? that you might need it there, or will there be even a pot that you can plant it in? So I thought it was quite a neat thing, and the fact that you can only use them once per life is quite cool. So you can't
Yeah.
just like use it, die a little bit, backtrack, and use it again. It's like, no, you've got to be strategic in how you use them.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool, and a really cool spin on how healing works in a game like this, because I've never seen a game that does something similar to that. It's quite neat. So yeah, you were saying before the podcast that you think it's really pretty.
It's got a very distinct I don't know, it's an interesting palette and just look to the game. It's like I'm trying to think of something I could compare it to. But there's something about, so for example, where it's like you've said before, it's an isometric adventure game. So obviously top down. But there's something about when you're on a platform, like that platform's in focus, but everything, if there's platforms underneath it, it's like blurred. It's just the way
it's got a really strong like bokeh effect. Yeah,
but when you move, as you move through the level, it's just visually very nice to look at. It's a super pretty
I was
game.
wondering if I was going mad because like I noticed immediately what you were saying, that like blurred outlines, and I was like, what is going on here? But it's so cleverly done to keep things that you can interact with in focus.
And it just makes everything pop.
Yeah,
but I suppose just for context as well, because I don't think we've mentioned, but Dead Store is essentially a game where the premise is are you a crow or you're a crow, right? I actually quite like how the premise is set up. So I in my opening hour, that was like the introduction where I saw the splash screen Dead Store, and the whole premise is that you are a crow who has to go collect souls because, well, actually, you could probably explain it better because you've played the game a lot more. But my understanding is when there's a door open to collect a soul, you age in that realm. So you obviously have to collect the soul to stay young. Is that the whole hook?
Yeah.
But you get sent on a mission to collect a big soul. I don't know what the correct term is. But an older crow essentially steals the soul to try, because they're trying to get into a thing called Death's Door. But
where he believes his soul that he was assigned to like escaped to.
Yeah. So this poor crow is like old now because he hasn't, acquired the soul he was assigned to. And now by him stealing your soul, he's like, oh well, I guess you're gonna have to help me get into Death's Door. And I thought that was quite a clever little, setup.
It's a really cool setup. Like, yeah, like you said. So when you start the game, it's all monochrome and it feels like almost like a noir mystery. And you're in this like bureaucratic office filled with crows, and they are responsible for reaping souls across, all manners of time and space. Essentially, they've taken over the Grim Reaper's job. And they're afforded the ability to hop between areas by these like doors, which are controlled by this being called the Lord of Doors. So,
you've heard of Lord of the Dance? Like, get ready for Lord of the Doors.
Lord of the Doors, exactly. He's dancing on keys and locks. That's all he does.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch that too. Imagine the sound it would make with the tapping shoes. That'd be fantastic.
Just the clinking keys. Holy shit.
Yeah.
We're onto something.
So ASMR to a new level, I tell you.
Shit.
So, yeah. So once a crow is assigned a soul to reap, they start aging. And only when they turn in that soul does the aging stop. So, yeah, like you said, it's like this. It is a sort of like treadmill where they are constantly working to keep their immortality going. And since your soul is stolen, you kind of have to help this old crow to regain your soul, otherwise you're going to die. And the story goes in some cool places. Like it starts questioning, like, is immortality the correct way, the natural flow of life? And you come across characters who think what you're doing is completely wrong. And all the bosses you fight are strong souls because they've found a way to extend their life unnaturally. And that's why their soul is like, it's almost like this, your soul is like inflamed from all the life you've been living. But at the same time, we just both came off Chicory, which was a very I think, a very hard story emotionally to take.
Mm.
It's very serious and very hard hitting. Death's Door presents these ideas, but it's very funny
Yeah, it's
and
like
very
lighthearted. Yeah,
non-serious. Yeah,
yeah. I
like
mean, no, go for it.
oh no, go for it, go for it.
No, I was gonna say even in the opening like 10 minutes when you get your first assignment, the guy the crow who gives it to you basically says like, this is the cycle of life, a rat race. And I'm like, huh, that's like already there's some commentary, I guess, on, our daily grind. We work hard to make money, but do we get to enjoy that money because we're just working all the time? It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
it's 100% that.
But
yeah.
it's presented, and like you said, it's very quirky. It's like, yeah, it's the rat race. Like, go get the soul now. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I'll do it.
Yeah, like this is such a weird thing to like. It feels weird. It's like a corporation that's overseeing the souls of everyone in the world. It's very strange.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Like as you start planting those healing plants around the world, these little like sprouts, they almost look like sentient buds, like flower buds. They spawn around there and they follow you. And the more you plant out in the world, the more appear in the central hub,
Okay.
like the Commission of Crows. And the dialogue around them is so funny because they just chill out on like the desks of other crows. And then I came across one that was black and I was like, what the hell? And the crow was like, oh, he fell into my ink bowl, but he doesn't seem to mind. It's just like, it's really cute and quirky.
Yeah.
And like, you haven't fought one of the main bosses yet, but after each boss fight, you have a sort of funeral for the boss, which I thought was very interesting.
Wow.
Like,
yeah.
and even then, it's just like you're eulogizing this character who was evil and bad, but it's funny and quirky. It's great. It's got a great sense of humor and just like really good writing. That's punchy when it needs to be, but also very lighthearted. This is not a story that's meant to make you sad, put it that way.
Yeah.
But it is thought provoking at times.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely touches on some themes, which is quite cool.
It is a very so I finished the game in about 8 hours and I stuck a lot to the main path, but there is so much to do like outside of the main path. There's whole weapons that don't appear on the main path. So like if you want to acquire new weapons, which I don't find one weapon better than the other, because the combat is very purposeful in a way. Like it takes a while to get used to. Every time you hit attack, you have to wait for that animation to end. You cannot break out of an animation. So again, talking about like a Souls-like comparison here. So it can feel weird if you just like mashing on the attack button and then hoping that when you hit dodge, you'll be able to dodge out of step with your attack, sort of like a character action game. That's super not what happens. And if you overextend, you will get hit. And you have very limited life. So, each weapon has a certain number of combos that you can put out before you take like an extended break before your next swing. And new weapons play around with that. New weapons have like different attack times and different combo counts and different combo refresh counts. So I didn't find any one better than the other, but it was really cool to have like, your standard sword has a certain rhythm to it, and then you can find daggers that are much faster but do less damage, or like a much larger sword that has better range, but as games do, that will be much slower. So finding weapons is cool. Finding new spells. The spells are kind of like what govern your movement through the world. So you start with an arrow spell, I think, or you don't have that yet.
No, you do. You've got not a spell. I've got a bow and arrow though.
So those are technically like spells. You get a bow and arrow. Eventually, you get like, I guess this is why people call it Zelda. Like talking about it, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like Zelda. You get like a bomb. You get a hook shot.
Oh wow,
shit, this is Zelda.
This is literally Zelda.
Literally Zelda.
Although on that quickly, I find it very interesting that the bow and arrow. So I don't know if this applies to all the spells. I presume it does, but you get a number of charges that you can use, and to replenish them, you have to attack. which I
Yes,
found
it's exactly the same. Yeah.
very similar to Hollow Knight, except you
Yes,
using
you're
it to
right.
heal and
Actually,
also cast spells, which is quite cool.
I didn't even think. I forgot that Hollow Knight had that mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same. You don't have to attack an enemy, which is nice. If there's something around you that is breakable, it will recharge the slot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's essentially that. Like, and once you find a new spell, you'll have access to the new main area, but there's still lots of things in your existing areas or ones you've already unlocked to go and rediscover.
Yeah.
And sometimes I found, like, I said this in my review, but like the shrines that you find to increase your life and magic or your, the ability meter, they are sometimes so far off the main path that I genuinely got to the end of the game without upgrading my life or my magic.
Oh, wow.
Because I only found because you need to find 4 to upgrade it once.
Yeah.
And I only found 2 of each. And I was looking, I unlocked all the weapons, I unlocked some additional combat challenges that upgrade your abilities. But shrines for healing and stuff, they were so weirdly on the periphery of the game that I don't know. I think if you're struggling with the game, to have to then go seek those out really diligently maybe wrecks the pacing a little bit.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's 8 hours. I finished, got to credits, and then, not to spoil anything, but something happens after the credits of that game that changed the game. It's sort of like your Castlevania inverted castle type of thing.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
You can play the game in a completely different state, which gives you new challenges.
Nice.
Yeah.
They literally flip the castle on its head, and that's what they do in this game.
It essentially. So if you focus, the entirety of the game takes place during daytime. There's a thing you can do to change it to night, and then everything's different.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The enemies and areas are different. There are certain aspects of maps that are different. There will be one part that is covered in water during the day, but at night there's no water, so you can access a new area.
Oh, that's cool.
Stuff like that. Really, really cool. So there's a lot to dig into after the fact.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Andy Cortez from Kinda Funny, he 100% of the game, and his time was 26 hours.
Oh, geez.
So,
yeah. That's quite
there's
a
a
lot.
lot you can do in that game. So, yeah, it's good. I really, really liked it. I think it's, again, like Chicory, indie games are really propping up this year in terms of quality. And I think it's only on PC and Xbox, but I think it's a game everyone should definitely play, especially if you enjoyed Hollow Knight, if you enjoyed Bastion, if you enjoy Zelda games, you will 100% love this game. It is super good.
I don't know what the cost is overseas. I mean, I imagine it's $20, maybe
I think so,
20 or 30. I mean, if you're in South Africa, though, it's I got it, the pre-launch 15% off, so it was $150. Otherwise, it's $175.
Oh, really? Is that how cheap it is on Steam?
Super cheap, yeah. I mean, and that's
I don't know how much it
is.
is on Xbox, but it's not on Game Pass, unfortunately. I really thought it would be, considering it's only on Xbox and PC. But yeah, it's a great game, I think. And again, just like Chicory, not a really demanding game visually. Should run on a lot of things. So yeah, it's one of those games that you look at the Steam Deck, you're like, yeah, this is what this device is for. I'd fucking play this on a Steam Deck. That'd be great.
This game has to come to Switch, man. Why isn't it on Switch?
This game on Switch would be fantastic. It would be super, just like Hades. I would, if it was on Switch, that's where I would have played it. But
you'd 100% it as well then. Just have
so you're playing it on PC, I assume you're using a controller.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, these sorts of games, I think, require a controller, because I tried it with mouse and keyboard, and no.
Controllers
just does not feel good.
Mouse and keyboard's the only way if you're playing a first-person shooter, maybe a third-person shooter as well.
Yeah, like an over-the-shoulder third person.
Yeah, or
not
a
not an
strategy game.
then exactly.
Mouse and keyboard's the most important component.
No, I can't.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was funny though, because it really reminded me of Bastion, and then it launched on Bastion's 10th anniversary, which I thought was kind of fitting.
Coincidence? I think not.
I think not. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm early days, but I'm very much looking forward to sinking my teeth into this game. I think it's right up my alley.
Oh yeah, I think there are certain combat challenges that will be super up your alley. Like there were moments there I was like, oh, Matty's gonna fucking love this.
Can't
I
wait.
knew immediately. Really, really good game.
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
that's
death's
mostly what I
door.
played last week and early this week. And then outside of that, I've been touching back in on Ori,
Oh boy.
and the Will of the Wisps. Nearly done with that, so I'll chat about that next week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The only other big thing, I guess, is the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD
Casual
on Nintendo
Zelda game.
Switch.
Talking about a
So
Zelda
yeah,
inspired game. You're actually playing
yeah.
a Zelda game.
So I've never played Skyward Sword because I never owned a original Wii, and it's always been that Zelda which I found is the most divisive when people talk about it.
Mm.
I feel like the conversation has become far more positive in the lead up to this HD launch
Yeah.
because I seem to recall when I first got into playing Zelda games, Skyward Sword was the one that people were like, "Wow, that was a
I
real disappointment."
I think it's easily like if you look at any like top 10 Zelda game list, I'd imagine it's either not there or at the bottom. Like that's
Mm.
my interpretation of how like not unloved, but how it doesn't sort of stand up
Stack
to
up,
the
yeah.
other Zelda games. So yeah.
Yeah, so this was a game that was specifically designed for motion controls on the Wii, and that's part of why people both loved or hated it. And now being on the Switch, obviously they had to come up with a way for you to play controller only. You can still play with the motion controls, and I will be upfront about it. You should definitely play with the motion controls because the
Mm.
controller only solution sucks. I think
Mm.
it really, really sucks. And it's mostly down to one option, which I wish they would allow you to change. So essentially, your right stick is mapped to your sword movements that you would otherwise make with your hand.
Mm.
And I find this quite cool because you slash horizontally or vertically or across slash,
Mm.
and it's kind of doing what Metal Gear Rising Revengeance did before it did that. Like if you cut a piece of wood at a certain angle, it will slice in that
That way,
angle,
yeah.
which I think is super cool. It's always a cool thing
Mm.
to have that sort of agency in a game. What I do not understand is why that is the default motion for the right stick when combat is, in any Zelda game, not your core focus.
Mm.
Um, why make your right stick default to sword and have me have to hold down a button to move the camera?
Yeah.
Why is that not inverted? So whenever you're playing just with the controller, if you want to move your camera around, you have to hold the shoulder button to change the function of the right stick, and then the right
Too.
stick becomes your camera control. And I looked in the options because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Surely there's a way to invert this, and there isn't. So playing, just exploring, getting around dungeons and whatever, like constantly having to hold this button to move my camera it's like a
Annoying.
small thing, but it's so annoying. Like it's so counter to how video games work.
Mm.
Today it's just bizarre. Like so many video games today, you press a button to activate a sort of combat mode.
Yeah.
And Skyward Sword is like, nah, we're doing it the other way around, even though we aren't really even a combat focused game.
Yeah.
So that alone is like really soured the experience for me because now like I don't really want to play it in like bed because I think it feels bad. It doesn't feel
Mm.
nice to play. And especially then when you're playing portably, it forces you to contort your hand constantly to hit that shoulder button just so you can move around freely. And I played a bit with motion controls. This is not an issue with the game or the Switch, but more with my setup. But I was having issues with the Joy-Con like cutting out because of where my Switch is situated with my TV. So I've got to find a way to move it so it doesn't do that. But it definitely feels a lot more organic with the motion controls because then the right stick is only camera control and then your sword is on the
just
motion
slashing,
controls,
yeah.
which feels fine and that feels great. So yeah, I'll probably play more in that sort of mode. Otherwise, the game seems pretty cool. The art style is not super my cup of tea. I think it looks really nice in the whole HD treatment.
Mm.
but I've never been a huge fan of the Zelda art styles that make Link look a bit more realistic than I think he should be.
Yeah.
This is nowhere near like Twilight Princess, which I think Twilight Princess looks horrible. Personally, I don't
How
like
dare
it
you.
at all. This is more like this is like if Twilight Princess and Wind Waker got together. It like has the body sizes of Twilight Princess, but the watercolors of a Wind Waker.
You have the watercolors of your dad's eyes.
Yeah. You're born with the watercolors from your mother. Oh. All the characters have oddly big noses, so I don't know if this is like Skyward Sword Portugal edition or what's going on here. I'm allowed to say that I'm Portuguese.
I know.
How dare you?
But I'll take offense because I'm Portuguese.
I do like that you can just jump off the map and call like a bird that you can then just ride whenever. There's some ideas in this game that I feel like are so far ahead of its time. It's pretty cool. Like, if that's going to be a thing in Breath of the Wild, like I can jump off one of those sky temples and call like a flying horse, that'd be fucking cool. Like Epona with wings, that'd be cool, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a Zelda game in structure. It is very traditional in that sense. And I do want to play more. I'm really bummed out that the controller option sucks because that was like the one thing that I was kind of keen on. It's like, yeah, I can play this how I want to play it because I'm not huge into motion controls, and I don't think it's a good way to play.
I'm going to come out and really say, annoying. Is anyone that big into motion controls? Question mark.
Not that I know of. No. I mean, it feels nice. Yeah, it definitely feels like a game that was designed with that in mind, and that's why the controller option feels so shoehorned in. Like, I get why they did it. And I can only, I can empathize with the devs. Like, how do we take this game that was really not designed for this and convert it? But I just think they made a mistake not allowing you to invert that one option. Because I think with that option, it would be fine, to be entirely honest.
Yeah.
It would be okay.
I find weirdly, though, that especially with Nintendo games, that there are often limited options for changing buttons, which I just found so weird. Like, look,
it's really crappy.
I'm not a programmer, so you know better than anyone, but I just can't imagine it taking that much dev power to add that functionality. Like, I really can't.
Not.
So, really, like, not. Wow. Like, surely, and it's a funny thing is that we could say now, like, you could criticize it, and reviews could criticize it, and fans could criticize it. Do you think Nintendo will patch in the alternate? Like, I don't know.
I don't. Knowing Nintendo, probably not.
Probably not.
But it's another way in that Nintendo feels really behind the curve. Like, especially when you consider, button mapping is not really a concern for people like us who can play games pretty naturally. When it comes to an accessibility point of view, it's crucial to some people because if they cannot map it, if they cannot remap a game's controls, that completely prevents them from mapping it to special controllers that they have that allow them to play games. So, Microsoft has been super forward with this stuff by putting button mapping on an operating system level. So it's completely agnostic to games. Like, if a game says B is attack and only B is attack, you can go into the Microsoft operating system and be like, nah, B is A. And then the game has no idea you've done that, and it doesn't give a shit. Like, and Sony, a lot of first-party Sony games have done the same thing. Like, they allow you to remap anything. And especially with games like Returnal and Ratchet and Clank, which have mechanics tied to the haptic triggers, they do not force you to use that. So why Nintendo cannot get on this curve? I think it's silly. Like, we all love to give shit about Nintendo, like, oh, the online is so behind the times and this and that. But this is really where they are behind, and it affects their players. For me, it's an annoyance. I can still play Skyward Sword. For someone else, this might prevent them from playing entirely.
Just cut them out entirely.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I can finally play Skyward Sword because it doesn't require motion controls, which I can't do. Maybe and now they get to this point and they're like, well, I can't contort my finger constantly like this, so now I can't play it this way either because no one's allowing me to change the button binding to this. Or it's really stupid. And I think if you're going to remake a game and charge full price for it, and then say, well, we are making a whole new control scheme, you better make sure that control scheme's fucking
adaptive,
good.
yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah, this is the game. Skyward Sword is probably still good. I've seen a lot of people compare its dungeon design to like a Dark Souls, which is fascinating to me. I kind of want to experience that.
Rest at a bonfire, else you lose all your rupees.
Oh, good lord! Could you imagine the guy who's that guy? The guy that usually sells you things for rupees. Is it starts with a B?
Beetle.
Beetle.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine you die and Beetle just comes and like hits you over the head and steals all your rupees. Like,
it's mine now.
Yeah, it's mine. Hey!
Wow.
Yeah. Good lord. But yeah, I just wish its controls were better.
Yeah.
I wish it played better. It's a real disappointment
I'll get to it
on that regard.
I want to just finish up old Monster Hunter and then I'll investigate some Skyward
You're still
Sword.
enjoying your monster?
Yeah, I'm
Monster
still,
Hunter stories.
I'm still plugging away at that. So I'm not gonna even talk about it because
I keep seeing people saying that game is like the best Pokemon game they've ever played, and that makes me super interested in it.
It's interesting because it really does feel like I've said probably last week or the week before, it feels like a weird mashup of Pokemon and Monster Hunter. Like it's got the DNA of a Monster Hunter in that, there's the monsters that you can obviously hunt them to get parts to turn into armor and weapons, whatever. But in this game, you can also collect them. You get eggs and you raise them and you level them up and you fight alongside them. So
I saw the other day that you can sacrifice monsters as well. So you skin them for your weapons, you steal their babies to fight against them, and now you sacrifice their parents as well in a ritual.
That is like the final nail in the coffin of this game, where I was like, this game has no chill when it comes to just owning monsters, because it is like, oh cool, you've done, you do this quest, like cool, you can now do this channeling right. It's the way to get genes from one monster to another.
Channeling right.
And then it shows you this tutorial screen. It's like, yep, just remember that the monster you choose to give a gene will not be available after. And I'm like, why?
That's a real good euphemism for like you are murdering the fuck out of this monster.
Wow, what happens to it? Do you send it back out into the wild? Does it just die like right then and there? What happens? Does it just get absorbed? Like,
well, to be fair, this is a Pokemon thing as well. Where do you think all those Pokemon go when you're getting candies in Pokemon Go?
Oh, into the Candy Crush machine.
Professor Oak is just fucking he's just putting them in a grinder. He's keeping all the real candy and he's giving you one for your trouble.
So I've just been plugging away at Monster Hunter Stories 2. Look, I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would, which is pretty cool. So I'm just plugging away at that.
How many hours you got into it, do you reckon?
About 15. So I'd say...
Okay. Jeez, I thought you were going to say 50 for a second. I was like,
no,
Jesus.
hell no. I think in terms of narrative, I'm about halfway. Like if I look at the world map and I'm trying to gauge progress-wise, I'd say I'm about halfway. And I mean,
so it's like a Final Fantasy in length.
But this is me just straight up. I'm not entirely mainlining it, but I'm mostly mainlining it. Like I'm just, beelining it to objectives where I can, with some side exploration here and there. I think you could easily lose a lot more hours to this game if you really want to sit and min-max your monsters. Make sure they've got the right genes and the right sort of, you've got the right armor, the right build, that sort of thing. But I'm not that deep into it, but I am having a good time. Just the story structure is, we need to do this thing, there's a monster at the end of this quest, we've beat this monster, let's go turn this in. Okay, there's another problem, I bet your monster's behind it.
Is it like open world, or is it you're traveling between areas?
No, it's not like Monster Hunter Rise in that you just fast traveling to a hub. It's you run to different areas. So it's like, I guess it is open world.
It's like a Pokemon.
Yeah. It's a lot like a Pokemon. So I'm plugging away at that, and I've also been hooked on Trackmania. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm looking at the time and we're running a bit late here. But when you get the time, you really need to join us for some races, because this season, I think the last time we played. So for those of you who don't know, this is Trackmania, free on Epic. There's a Starts edition that lets you just race. Or
you can buy the Matty edition.
That was only a year subscription I bought.
Oh,
for $10.
so it's lapsed.
Out. I'm a basic bitch again. I can't even type in chat.
My
So
God.
how it works? So it's free to play. Every 3 months they release like a seasonal set of maps of 25 maps. And I know when the game launched, we had a good time. We played a lot of it, and then we fell off, and we came back for the next batch of maps, and we're like, yeah, this is okay. And then we came back, we're like, okay, this is it's like every season it felt like it was getting.
They were leaning into the real hardcore shit.
Even the starting levels were like, holy shit, this is just
it was too hard. Yeah.
But I'm pleased to say that I think this is the summer sets of tracks 2021. This set of 25 tracks, most of them are real good. Like I'm having a lot of fun playing with Chilla and Brad, because there's now an actual ranked system in Trackmania, where I don't know if I explained this on the podcast or if I explained it to you before we recorded once, but you basically have a 3v3 mode now where it's the goal is to get your team to 5 points, your team of 3 to 5 points, and to do that you just do laps on a track, and it assigns you points based on your finish. So if you finish first, you get 6 points. If you finish sixth, you get 1 point, and it tallies up the team's totals, and then whoever has the most points gets that round. So it's the first to 5 rounds, and that has proven to be a lot of fun, just because it ups the stakes. So you're forced to drive a little more carefully, but also you can't be slow, because you're going to let your team down if you don't get enough points.
It's not like the traditional multiplayer where you have 5 minutes to set your fastest lap.
So that's still there, and that's the way to learn maps, because you can just keep retrying. In the ranked mode, if you push the reset button, like that just straight up gives you a DNF, like did not finish.
Oh, really? Wow.
So you can either like reset to the nearest checkpoint, which obviously puts you at like a massive disadvantage, because chances are a lot of other people don't mess up. But it makes it really exciting, because we often have rounds where you all start together, you all start on the same grid, whatever. And then it's a thing of like, okay, shit, like one of them's in front. Oh, he messed up. Okay, like, nah, I'm in first place. Oh, shit, but this guy's overtaking me. Oh, he messed up. Like, it just makes it exciting. Or like, I messed up. Shit, you guys have to finish like at least second and third to get us this round,
I guess it works best on tracks that you're somewhat familiar with, because some tracks are just like bullshit in certain areas.
So it's done smart in the sense that I think when you start, you're obviously like bronze tier. So I think it only serves you the first 5 tracks of the season, which are fairly simplistic tracks. It's like there's a turn here and there, whatever. And then as you rank up, that's when they start introducing like, oh, here's the next five tracks for you to sort of, prove that you're good at. And I assume you eventually get to what is it, gold or platinum, and then you do the last 5 tracks, which are they long. So if you mess up, it's like, that's it.
Yeah. That's so cool. I desperately want to play this. Like, I know I was meant to join sometime this week, but this week's just been wild. But it sounds like so cool. And and the fact that all of you are back in, it means like the new maps are really good then, I think.
Yeah, because we love Trackmania to the point where we came back like, oh, there's a new set of tracks, and we came in and we were like, we played like, yeah, this is cool, but we fell off like immediately.
I remember feeling like super bummed about those new tracks. I wasn't having nearly as much fun.
Yeah. Whereas these, it is like look, they're still relatively challenging the further you go along the track list, but they easy enough that you could arguably figure out how to do them without having to do ridiculous tricks or like these super tight lines. It's like, you can learn them. They're doable.
Yeah, like you said, the new seasons, the opening tracks were like so precise already that by the time you got halfway through the season, you were just like, I don't want to even see what's going on, because I'm not having fun, know.
Can confirm, because this is a summer themed pack, there's a lot less snow.
Oh, thank God.
I think we
ice
played
pack
the
was just
winter.
nonsense.
I think we played the winter pack, which is like mostly snow. And
it's not fun.
Snow is okay, but it takes some real practice to get used to how to drive on the snow.
1 or 2 tracks thrown in to add some spice. Yeah, that's fine.
So
but that winter one was like all
but
snow. It was nonsense.
the snow is used like sparingly to my knowledge. So
my favorite is still the little wipeout red balloon looking things like that they put on tracks that you have to avoid. I think those are really fun.
It's a good time. So yeah, if you ever get the time, just definitely come join us. We can either do ranked or just arcade. Like, and what's quite nice with ranked is that, look, I love being competitive, like especially with Cello and them. It's just fun to like shit talk. I'm like, oh, I beat you or you beat me or whatever. But I mean, let me tell you, the trash talk doesn't go away in ranked either. It's like, oh, you let me down.
I don't expect it to.
But there's something different about working together to try and get the team a win. It's just a different dynamic, and it's something I would recommend. I mean, Trackmania as a whole, I'd recommend anyone try. If you have any inkling, like I'm not necessarily the biggest racing game fan, but shit, like I've poured easily like maybe 30 hours into this Trackmania now. I'd guess.
I love it.
And it's good fun, yeah.
I think it's gone back to its sort of roots of like being this community driven thing, you know, because people, you know, if you buy the yearly sub, then you have access to creating your own tracks and hosting them, and that's where you see like weird as hell shit.
Yeah.
But then if you just want to race tracks, it's like free and you can play that online.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. Yeah, it's distilled the essence of Trackmania back down to what it used to be in Trackmania. Well, what was the one I used to play? Is it Nations as a teenager? Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, would recommend. Free on Epic. I don't know. I don't think it's on consoles.
Free on Uplay. It is. Actually,
because this to me, if this had crossplay on consoles, like why not? That would be perfect.
I know the. No, it's not. Yeah. I'm seeing Reddit posts here as recent as April 2021 where people are asking for it. The last Trackmania game to come out on console was Trackmania Turbo, which was the more campaign one.
Yeah, I played that and I also enjoyed that.
I love that one, yeah. And then they added a VR mode to that and that sucked. Holy shit.
That's where people
Never
died.
ever in my life again, you know.
So yeah, only on PC, but hopefully coming to other consoles in the near future. I don't see why they wouldn't put on a console at some stage.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe it's just a case of like maybe it's a bit weird for figuring out how to host all that custom content on consoles, which are a bit more locked down and stuff like that. So yeah, but I agree with you. I think that game would be fantastic on consoles.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we get to game releases for this coming week?
Yes.
My God, can you believe we are looking at games basically from today, 24th of July, to the 30th of July. So basically the end of the month.
Look at this ad I'm being served. Great. Nom nom nom. Bank that takes your money seriously. Thanks, NetBank. Okay, we
got a hell of a lot of games coming out.
Really? Oh boy.
This period, yeah.
Oh, we're nearly in August. Interesting.
Yeah, wild. Can you believe it? Okay, so let's start from the top. Samurai Warriors 5, PC, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, July 27th. The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Objection.
Is that just a collection of Ace Attorney games?
I don't know if that's it might be the new one. That new one that's set in like the Sherlock Holmes or what is he called? Herlock Sholmes in the game, which is really funny.
Have you ever played an Ace Attorney?
I've never, and I'm still not entirely sure what like the gameplay loop in them is, but I've been told I would enjoy them by like one or two people. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I should try them one day. So that's PC, PS4, and Switch. For some reason, I used to think that was a Nintendo exclusive franchise, but guess not.
Oh, it isn't? I also thought that.
No, it's coming to
so
PS4.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also on July 27th, Neo, The World Ends With You. So that's the sequel to The World Ends With You.
That's PS4 and Switch. How weird that it's not on PS5.
Can't wait for that game. I love The World Ends With You, and the sequel looks tight as hell. So
yeah,
excited for that.
So it's interesting because I'm excited for this, but it's like one of those games where I don't know if I'll play it on launch because I'm just like I've got other shit keeping me.
No,
super busy,
this is a game like you can play And it's also pretty long, I assume.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be long.
Then we've got Tribes of Midgard, PC, PS4, PS5, July 27th.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Flight Simulator coming to Xbox Series X and S on July 27th.
Vroom Vroom Simulator in the skies.
Vroom Vroom in the skies, yeah.
It's all about family.
You know what they should do? Good lord. You know how Forza Motorsport is like your simulation racing, and then your Forza Horizon is the more arcadey style.
Oh,
they should make an arcadey style flight sim. Hell,
that'd be
yes.
awesome.
I'd be down for that. I'd be really happy with that. Like an open world or open sky flyboy game. That'd be cool.
Goddamn.
High Fleet coming to PC July 27th. The Forgotten City, PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, July 28th.
So many platforms.
Unbound, Worlds Apart, PC and Switch, July 28th. Then we've got the Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3 pixel remasters coming to PC, Android, and iOS. These are the ones that everyone was like, why the fuck are they not coming to consoles? And then Square Enix was like, if there's enough demand, we'll put it on consoles. It's like, okay.
Release the Snyder Cut for console.
Yeah, release the Snyder
Cut. I'm like, I love the Final Fantasy franchise, but I have no desire to play any of these. Like, Final Fantasy 1, cool to play because it's like, oh, this is the origin of the franchise. Final Fantasy 2 is they did like a complete 180 where the way you level up isn't, you don't get experience from monsters per se. You level up abilities based on how often you use them.
weird.
Which it sounds great on paper, right? Like you think like that's just like real life. The more I use a sword, the better I get with it. Cool, whatever. Except in action, it doesn't feel good. It's
and that kind of like locks you into like if you use this at the start and then realize it's kind of shit. Now you've wasted time.
But you can also break it to the point where like, so the idea is if you want to become tankier, you should take more damage because the logic, I guess. You can start attacking your own party members to buff them up to level up their health. So yeah, it's a weird Final Fantasy. And then Final Fantasy 3 is the first one I think that introduced jobs. That was fun. I played the...
Wasn't 3 the first one that came to the West? That's like what's considered Final Fantasy 1
that's
in the West.
Final Fantasy 1 technically. I played the remake. Like there was a DS 3D remake of it. It was okay. I enjoyed it. 4 is when the Final Fantasies really started going like, here's an actual story to care about. Yeah.
I think I watched a Summer Games Done quick speed run of Final Fantasy 1 and it is it's
old
an early ass RPG. Yeah. It's really mechanics over anything. So yeah.
Now you can play the Final Fantasy remake where you get to fight Chaos.
Let's move on. Chaos.
You've heard of Elden Ring. Now get ready for Oldest Souls.
Yeah, this is the crossover you never expected to come. PC, goodness. PS4, PS5, Xbox, everything. Let me just say that. July 29th.
Even Switch.
Yeah, even Switch. Omno. It's a cool name. PC, PS4, and Xbox One, July 29th. Nothing to Remember, coming to PC, July 29th. Arcsmith, which is from Bithell Games, coming to Oculus Quest, July 29th. Nice. I think it's the first game there that isn't actually directed by Mike Bithell.
Okay.
Yeah. Looks pretty cool. Paint the Town Red, coming to everything, July 29th. Project Warlock 2, early access on PC. Project Warlock is a sort of like, it's like a Doom style shooter, but it's like magic as well. So it looks cool. I remember the first one being pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah. The Ascent is a big release for this week. It's the isometric twin stick shooter coming to Xbox and PC. And No Longer Home coming to PC July 30th. Hooray. That's games for the week. And then we move into August. Then we're getting into the real business end.
Closer to some Kenner. Please be good. Please be good.
When is that? It's like middle of August, isn't it?
4th, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, or maybe I'm wrong.
Still quite a way.
It's somewhere here. It's somewhere
It's got to
there.
compete with Kiwi.
It is
August.
August 24th. Ha, I'm right.
Hey, we're getting closer
Okay.
and closer to Deathloop as well. Hell yes.
Ooh, so close.
Give me that Deathloop.
Okay, shall we get to some of that
News.
sweet news? Gaming
Do you want to kick us off on
with some of this EA Play shenanigans? But first, I need to get a
So
timestamp
EA decided to do E3 like a month later. Yeah, it was a cool show. Did you watch it?
No, I just got the recap after the fact.
It was cool. It was hosted by Austin Creed.
I did see him. I watched bits and pieces.
He was really fun. And it was like well paced. They kind of knew what. I mean, EA had come out prior being like, "Hey, there's going to be no Star Wars. There's going to be no Skate. So there was no Dragon Age or Mass Effect. So there was a lot of shit they like set expectation for. But I thought the show was still pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there was something for everyone. I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. So the big thing at the end, which had kind of been teased beforehand, was a trailer for Dead Space. So this is a full-on remake of the first one, developed by EA Motive, who most recently did Star Wars Squadrons.
Mm-hmm.
And judging by the interview with IGN that published afterwards, it sounds more and more like an amalgamation of Dead Space 1 and 2, because it's going to be the Dead Space 1 story on the Ishimura, but it will have elements from 2, sort of like the no camera cuts. Like everyone talks about God of War doing it first, but Dead Space 2 did that shit ages ago.
Oh, really? Sure.
And the 0G mechanics from 2, because they weren't super great in 1. So I'm curious to see how that works, because 1 was definitely segmented into hubs that you traveled between with that tram system that, you can go backwards and forwards. Each one, it was a product of the time. BioShock did the exact same thing at the time. So curious to see how that works. I'm keen. I'm just happy Dead Space is back because I think that franchise is fucking incredible.
Yeah. Look, to be clear, I know you and I said, like, does Dead Space need a remake? But I don't think it does, but I'm not going to say no to a Dead Space remake.
Of course.
It's one of those things where I'm like, yay, we're getting a new Dead Space. And then I'm like, yay, we're getting a new Dead Space. It's going to scare me.
I just hope it does well, and it means that EA will pay more attention to this franchise going forward. If we have to sit through a remake of the first one for that, that's fine. Like, I'm totally there.
Yeah, but then they're going to remake the third one, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Dead Space is not a horror game anymore." Boo.
Yeah.
But
I'm keen for that. There's no date on that.
No, and what they showed for audio listeners, it's like literally almost like a mood trailer where you just see it's dark. Yeah. You see Isaac's iconic health bar / spine thingy.
You hear that noise when it gets topped up. You hear a necromorph. What's interesting is that it's only for new consoles and PC.
Which, about time. Yeah. Make that cut off. Let's get just next gen stuff.
The weird thing is that it's in Frostbite, which I find strange. Because so all the third person action games that have been used in Frostbite have all been or have been made in Frostbite have all been a bit weird. Like Dragon Age Inquisition controlled a bit weirdly. Most recently, Mass Effect Andromeda was a shit show at launch, and Jedi Fallen Order wasn't in Frostbite. It was in Unreal. And I feel like a lot of that game's feel is because it was made in an engine that is more forgiving for that style of game. So maybe EA Motive is super used to Frostbite, and that's why they're going with that. I just hope that they've wrangled it in a way that it doesn't feel janky like most other third-person games have in that engine.
It might work not necessarily in the favor of Dead Space, but I mean, Dead Space is, it's more of a slow, methodical movement kind of game. So I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But yeah, that was I suppose the big surprise at EA Play. But there was a lot of other news for long-time fans of, for example, Apex Legends getting a new season with a new character named
Called Sia.
Sia.
Yeah, I think a character from, if I'm mistaken, Nigeria,
Oh, yeah?
which is cool. And seems to have abilities that are kind of similar to Bloodhound, where they are tracking foes,
Okay.
stuff like that. So, yeah, interesting.
So, yeah,
I've been out of
Apex.
the loop with Apex for ages, so I can't really tell you what the big things are.
Exactly. Oh, look at that! I can't
Damn,
believe they're
that
on
character
season
design
10.
is dope. Yeah, can't believe that either.
Ooh.
This game keeps going from strength to strength. Like,
Yeah.
people are obsessively playing this. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think everyone there is pretty happy with it.
I still stand by. I think this is the best battle royale game on the market.
It's definitely the best feeling one.
Yeah.
Definitely has the best gun feel and combat feel. So, yeah, I can vibe it. I mean, when it came out, we actually played quite a bit of it.
I've played a fair bit of Apex. Yeah.
Trailer is really stylish. I quite like it.
Yeah. We got some Vroom Vroom Grid Legends, which is a
new racing game from Codemasters. Yeah. So that's cool. Grid in the past has been fairly heavy on simulation racing. This one has a story mode. I guess akin to the work Codemasters has done with the Formula One franchise over the past few years. So there's going to be a story. It looks like lots of street racing, maybe a bit arcadey.
Yeah.
It's got the actor, I forget his name now, from Sex Education, who is amazing. He's a phenomenal actor.
Nice.
Yeah, him. He's so good.
It looks really pretty. Damn.
It looks really good. Yeah, it looks quite pretty. So yeah, I'm down for that. I'm down for more racing games, and Grid has generally been a really fun racing franchise. Codemasters does great work, so yeah, keen for that.
Oh, there you go. This you'll have to explain to me. Lost in Random. This is a new IP, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
this is a new IP. Sorry.
This is one of those, like indie games in the EA Originals line. So it's a bit hard to explain. I mean, I was busy covering this. Well, I was like half watching, half. So I sort of understand that it has a lot of mechanics built around dice rolls. And from my understanding, it's like a dungeon crawler, with that in mind. So, yeah, it's got a real Tim Burton-esque look to it.
Oh, yeah, it does. Damn.
So you see, you've got mechanics completely tied to dice rolls.
That's pretty cool.
And then it's like an adventure game as well. So it looks cool. I think it's got a novel idea, and its look is very, very eye-catching.
That is very, very Tim Burton. You're right.
Yeah, it's super Tim Burton-y. I think it looks great, and I'm actually kind of keen to play it. It looks really cool. So yeah, check out that fish in a top hat. Real cool. I think it's out fairly soon.
Real stylish.
Yeah, it releases 10th of September.
September 10th, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, real cool.
Knockout City Season 2. You reviewed this game. You love Knockout City, so some new content for people like you.
Yeah, new content, new maps.
Filmmaking in Hollywood.
Yeah, new maps, a new type of ball. So that's cool. I think it's cool that they are supporting this game. I haven't played much recently, but I know that the game has kind of been taken over by real hardcore players. So
really?
people are finding real depth in the gameplay. So that's cool. I think this game has a lot more legs than the other free to play titles. Like Rocket Arena. Fuck that game.
And then I suppose the last big piece of news is Battlefield 2042 getting. I mean, we know Battlefield 2042 is coming out, but it's getting a new mode called it's. I don't know if it's a new mode or what you would call it, but it's called Battlefield Portal. Which is essentially Battlefield Portal mode, which is essentially it gives players the tools to take weapons and characters and vehicles from just about every other Battlefield and make custom,
smush them together
into custom maps and modes. So for example, you could have a team of soldiers from Germany in Battlefield like from World War II, and have them up against super soldiers from Battlefield 2042. Like they showed one of the examples was like you can have 20 soldiers from World War II versus 4 super soldiers from 2042. I'm like, that sounds like a lot of fun for the 4 players playing as a super
Yeah, it
soldiers.
does.
But I can't say I'd be keen to be one of the 20 other players. But look, I
Mm.
think it's cool that they're giving players the tools to, mix and match these different, there's a lot of franchise Battlefield titles here just under one roof, which is pretty cool. Like, I think the biggest news for me is that a lot of iconic maps from previous Battlefields will be available. And that's really cool.
I saw people very excited about that one from Battlefield 3 coming back.
Yeah. Is
I
it
don't know what it's called.
Caspian?
Yeah, Caspian Sea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or,
Look, Battlefield 3 had some really, really good maps. So I'm very keen for that.
I think it looks like a cool mode. It's like akin to Halo's Forge mode, which, like you said, just lets players create fun, weird modes and pull in from the whole franchise's history. So I think this might be more exciting for diehard Battlefield fans than the actual just normal multiplayer. So yeah, it looks great. Looks very interesting.
Yeah. And that was yay play, really. That was like six or seven announcements. All was it under an hour?
Yeah, it was a nice touch show. I think if the Dead Space stuff hadn't leaked beforehand, it might have
it would have been like next.
It might have hit a lot harder, but it was a fun show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it was cool.
This past weekend, well, on Friday, the Olympics in Japan kicked off. But what was quite a nice surprise is that the opening ceremony was full of video game music from Japan. So I've not seen any footage, but I have heard of, music from Final Fantasy making an appearance, Dragon Quest, Monster Hunter. Like, there's a lot of cool
Kingdom
stuff
Hearts,
happening over here. Yeah, I think
it's mostly like the Square Enix catalog, Square Enix and Capcom catalog, and Sega. Funnily enough, someone actually pointed out that like there is no Nintendo music here, which is interesting.
Right in the heart. Maybe Nintendo nah.
There's no like Zelda Ocarina of Time.
No Mario
or anything in there. No Mario. Yeah. Only Sonic was at this Olympics. No Mario. They even had Pro Evolution Soccer featured. I mean,
really? Oh, they did.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it was cool for like gamers on Twitter who were watching the thing and then like, wait, I recognize that music.
Yeah.
Wait, I recognize that too. It was like a big surprise. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, all these franchises mentioning your Dragon Quest, Monster Hunter, fucking Ace Combat, Nier, Fantasy Star Online.
Gradius.
They pulled from Gradius. My goodness,
amazing.
Yeah.
And
there's some real deep
Calibur.
cuts here.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog. So yeah, that's cool. Still don't know why the Olympics are going forward. It's quite funny because if you play Plague Inc., there's a in-game scenario there that is like the Olympics are going ahead despite warnings from the World Health Organization that it will lead to more spreading of the disease, and you're like, we just live in this fucking game
we're living this fantasy.
And that wasn't added like last year. That's been in the game for years. Like when I first played it, it's just like real fucking dumb shit. But anyway, good luck to all the athletes. Hope you don't get sick.
Don't die. And then we
there's skateboarding at the Olympics for the first time this year.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think there's a 13-year-old competing, the youngest Olympian, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw Tony Hawk tweeting that he was there.
Which is like, cool. I saw Tony Hawk. Like, no, it's not him. He's old now.
No, he's old. He's quite old. He's like 4 times 13 years old.
Yeah, he's super old. And now we turn our attention to some real heavy and really upsetting news. It came out this week that Activision Blizzard are being sued by California over widespread harassment of women. Now, you might think, we've seen reports of this before happening at like Ubisoft and Riot, but I don't think you're prepared to see the stuff that's coming out of this report. It's like highly upsetting. Like there's been a suicide, for example, And it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, well, what a story. And it's just, yeah, like I don't know what to say really. It's just upsetting, and it just, I suppose, an indication of how there's just still so much to do. Because I can tell you now, Activision are not the only company that have issues.
Nope.
Yeah,
This is
I
an
think,
industry problem.
yeah, and
That
it's
is
not just a gaming industry problem. Like it's
no.
it goes across many different professions. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It is a worldwide problem. I mean, it is just the effects of, everyone around the world saying that we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to um, treating women, and women of color, especially people of color in the workspace, just on equal footing to everyone else. And this is what people refer to when they talk about institutionalized sexism or institutionalized racism. It is a pervasive and, you know, ingrained sense of sexism and racism that is incredibly difficult to topple because it is within the framework of how these companies work. It trickles down from the top, and when you have every facet of your company festering with this in some sort of way, it can be impossible to firstly escape it or find a place where you will be treated better because it is an industry wide thing.
yeah,
So, but like you said, this lawsuit. So this lawsuit is coming from the state of California, is suing Activision and Blizzard, um, and the details of some events that have taken place over the years, were obviously cited in the lawsuit, which is in the public domain. And I
yeah,
would encourage you to read through that. Kotaku has a very expansive report on this. Bloomberg also did one, and they all both link to the actual lawsuit, which is tons of pages that they've cherry picked from. And I mean, we'll put them in the show links because I think everyone should read this.
yeah,
It's just like too much for us to go into, but go in there knowing that there are deeply, deeply distressing stories there. Like some of the worst sort of stories I've heard of this sort of behavior in the games industry ever.
yeah,
Just truly vile and disgusting shit that women have been subjected to while working at Activision. And then just stuff that you read and you're like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right for what this industry is known for and how disgusting it is that it has not changed. And I think the thing that I took away from all of this week, just looking at social media and the reaction, was that these things come and go, and everyone expresses their outrage at it at the time, and then it kind of gets forgotten. And it gets forgotten because at the end of the day, the people who have the ability to change this, men in the workplace who see this stuff and don't speak up about it, they never do. And until that starts changing, this stuff will never go away because it's all good and well to tell women to report this stuff to HR or make a fuss about it. But at the end of the day, if if your company from the top down is governed in this way, then HR is there to protect the company. They're
yeah,
not there to protect you, so it will never change. Um, I've seen some people saying that they are going to boycott Activision products. Some websites like The Gamer have said that they will refuse to cover Activision and Blizzard games going forward until they see meaningful change. And I don't think there is a right way to tackle this thing. I don't think there is a silver bullet because, all those things comes with caveats. Like, what if a website has multiple freelance writers that depend on Call of Duty coverage? That is
yeah,
their beat, Now suddenly all that money is taken away from them for something that's not their fault.
yeah,
Who's right in that situation? Don't know. What if there's a streamer whose entire brand is built on Call of Duty? How do you expect them to stop that? And so there's no right or wrong way. I think any sort of form of action against them will make a difference. But to me, I just hope this lawsuit gains traction where it needs to. and becomes a precedent. Like, I hope there's a ruling that finally punishes these companies in a way that they have to change this, especially when you look at Activision's response, which is very defensive and borderline passive aggressive. Like them saying that they don't, they don't agree with some of the events depicted in the lawsuit. They they outright say that they are false and that they are committed to preventing misconduct in their company. And then they make this like veiled threat of like, this is why a lot of companies are moving out of California, is because of this type of litigation. Like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's real gross. It's real disgusting. Some of the comments from higher ups at Activision specifically have been real disgusting, real dismissive of victims. And then on the other side, you have comments from leadership at Blizzard who are very empathetic with the claims made, but then you look at their past behavior and it seems very performative and fake, considering comments they've made in the past. So yeah, I mean, hot on the heels of this happening at Ubisoft last year and nothing really happening, a lot of the people accused in those lawsuits were apparently investigated by a third party and retained their jobs. So there is no question that all the big developers or big, people in these companies leaving Ubisoft. Ubisoft has seen a huge exodus of talent in the past couple of months. I would not be surprised if you see that from Activision now if something doesn't drastically change. But it needs to change, and it doesn't need to change just at Activision. This is this has been one of the most distressing things I've read about this industry in a long time. Some real fucking disgusting shit going on there. Yeah. So if you do want to read up on it, I encourage you to read up on it, but go with that, knowing that in mind. It will be highly distressing to read about a lot of these things. In a way, it's not just like, employees are being catcalled. It's like you said,
like
an employee committed suicide.
I'll read this one example. It says, so this is a quote on the Kotaku article. I presume, is this from the actual...
This from the lawsuit, yeah.
So it says, in the office, women are subjected to cube crawls in which male employees drink copious amounts of alcohol as they crawl their way through various cubicles in the office and often engage in inappropriate behavior towards female employees. Male employees proudly come into work hungover, play video games for long periods of time during work while delegating their responsibilities to female employees, engage in banter about the sexual encounters, talk openly about female bodies, and joke about rape. It's like... wow. And that's not even the worst part of this lawsuit. That's just,
just below that you have a quote that says, in a particularly tragic example, a female employee committed suicide during a business trip with a male supervisor who had brought butt plugs and lubricant with him on the trip. Like
what? It's, I don't know. It's a difficult thing for me to fathom that even happened.
And again, it says a male supervisor. So who do you report it to when that is your supervisor?
Yeah.
It's really
hectic
bad.
Story.
Really fucking terrible.
But following on from that, ex-Blizzard boss Mark Morhaime to women has said, "I failed you." He has apologized in the wake of this Activision Blizzard lawsuit.
So he's a co-founder, but he hasn't been at the company for quite some time.
He left. When did he leave?
Didn't he leave just after the merge with Activision?
Yeah, he left in 2018.
Oh, okay. So actually not as long ago as I thought.
No, you might be thinking of Chris Metzen. He left before Mark Morhaime. Maybe. And he's released a whole statement. And like I was saying to you, not on the podcast, like, look, I completely agree with you where I think a lot of the problem does obviously start at the top. But I have to imagine you are someone who's established this company and you've like left it behind in what you think is good hands, and you read this report or this lawsuit and you're like, what? Like, this isn't the company I built. It's
well, you hope so, because it's
exactly.
I mean, all indications are that this isn't a thing that's happened overnight.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You've got the current leadership at Blizzard. What's his name? Alan Brack, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Who came out with a statement saying that he's appalled by the accusations and that this is not a company that stands for this sort of behavior, blah, blah, blah. But then you have a video of him on a panel at BlizzCon in 2010, him and a couple of other very notable Blizzard employees, where they are essentially laughing down a woman, a big World of Warcraft fan who had the guts to go to an expo that is probably she's vastly outnumbered there in terms of male to female, and she gets up and asks this panel of men when they're going to start creating female characters in World of Warcraft that aren't just overtly sexualized, and she essentially gets booed by the crowd there, which is a real fucking indicator of your community, and then laughed down by this panel which includes Alan Brack, who is now saying this is inappropriate behavior. So, a lot of this can be very performative, and a lot of people in these situations don't realize that what they're doing is disgusting, or they kind of justify to themselves that this is just the way people are. And especially people in power have the chance to change these things and choose not to. So they are just as culpable, if not worse. So yeah.
There's that. That is some big news this week.
And
sad,
I hope it doesn't go away.
news.
I hope this is not something we forget about. I hope this lawsuit keeps fucking dragging its heels and keeps popping up to make this a point. And I hope everyone that was brave enough to come forward in the suit gets the justice they deserve.
Likewise. But yeah, moving on to other news in a complete 180. Amazon's New World. So there's a new Amazon game called New World, which I've been told is essentially a Dark Souls-esque MMO. It is currently
set during the colonial expansion of America, which is a real choice of setting. But okay,
shit. It is it's currently bricking RTX 3090 graphics cards, which is if you somehow have found the ability to get your hands on a card, spent a lot of money, and only to have it brick buy a game.
And apparently it started out as just these cards, but I know tech YouTuber J2 Cents had a list of cards that he had received reports of the same thing, and it was a wide range of cards from both Nvidia and AMD. So it seems like they've pushed out a patch already. It seems the issue stemmed from the in-game menu not having a frame rate limiter. So when you when you pause the game or open up the menu, it would just obviously ramp up your card to the max frames it could put out, and that would just destroy all sorts of things like VRMs on the card and stuff like that. So real fucking rookie mistakes made by Amazon during a week where they sent their previous CEO to fucking space. So
yeah.
I don't know, whatever. I just know that EVGA has said they're going to be replacing affected cards, which is a real good guy move.
I'm like, it's not even your fault.
It's not their fault. Yeah, it's literally not their fault. But yeah, like you said, I'd be fucking devastated if you just got your hands on this card that was rarer than gold, and then this bullshit MMO just completely nukes it from out of nowhere. So
yeah.
Real fun times at Amazon games. They're real struggling with every sort of game. If it's not a game that's just boring to play, it's a game that's killing people's hardware.
What was that game called that you played?
Crucible.
Crucible. Yes, I could not for the life of me remember what it was called.
The only game that I've reviewed, which then went back into beta and then was cancelled. A real 180. I've never in my life seen something like that. But we played it together. I remember you played with me.
It was not a good
sucked.
time.
Game sucked. Straight up.
In other final news this week, PES has now officially changed its name to eFootball. eFootball.
Which is a real funny name.
Perfect for South Africa, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah. Now it's now digital only and completely free to play. Which, to be fair, is something I'm surprised did not happen a lot sooner. Given that, Fortnite and all these other games really changed the game by, going
Hey,
free to play and have. I mean, look, Fortnite's not the only game that's been free to play, but I think that is definitely a milestone where it's like, hey, this game's free. We've got a battle pass. This is how we monetize and we make money. And I mean, look at all the games that have followed. Like every game that follows has some kind of battle pass or some sort of way of making money, which, it's not, what's the word? It's not like aggressive or intrusive. It's completely optional. Like it's no, nothing dodgy about that. But I don't know what PES has planned, but, it's free to play now. So free football for everyone. And I imagine
I think
that
it's smart, yeah.
Yeah, and I think where they'll make the money will be maybe like FIFA. I don't know if there's player cards or player draws or something like that.
What's it on FIFA side? That Ultimate Team, I think it's called.
Yeah, so I don't know what
player pack shit.
PES's version is, but I imagine there will be some. They have to make money. They're not just going to make it free to play and not make money.
Yeah, I think eventually they launch like maybe roster updates or like specific tournaments that you have to purchase. Like, I just think from a I think all annual sports games will eventually do this, because to me it doesn't make sense to release a game and then 12 months later you're releasing an entirely new product. So you're dropping online support for this game that you spent tons of money on.
Yeah.
You're dropping all the players, that aren't immediately upgrading to the new one. So you've got this like period where you're kind of supporting two games at once because you have to while people make the transition. So rather than that, just have a platform that you consistently update. This is what, Fortnite has learned. This is what Call of Duty Warzone has learned, rather than trying to put out an annual one every year. So I would not be shocked if FIFA does this eventually, if EA does this with all its sports franchises. And, reducing the barrier to free to play gets more people playing, gets more people exposed to whatever transactions you potentially putting in front of them. So
also,
I think it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
It gives your like you've indicated, it gives your dev team some breathing room. You're not expected to put out a package every year. It's a thing of like, well, maybe we want to put out, I don't know, this fancy new grass tech. We have time to, put it together, roll it out in phases.
But that's exactly the problem. It was always like every new game, because it was a new project, it was seen as this thing that had to be revolutionary over the previous years. And that like, and then when it didn't feel revolutionary, everyone went, "Oh, this feels like a cash grab at $60." Now you don't have that problem.
No.
So, yeah, that's cool. Oh, look at Messi. Oh, cute.
Where's Pele? Where's my man?
Where's Pele? Pele's playing Fortnite. He doesn't play football games anymore.
My goodness. And that is all the news for this week. Yeah.
Fairly stacked week. So yeah. Should we move to questions? If you want to send us questions, you can email us checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also message us at checkpointchat on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram,
all of
TikTok,
the places.
All of the places.
So I did check earlier. I'm just double checking, but I think we do not have. We've got one question. I'm not.
That's fine. We've gone real overtime this week, so that works out.
So good guy Malesh has replied to our tweet saying, "Tell me about Trackmania. Checkpoint chat stand feeling that FOMO."
Well, so I think we preemptively got to that.
Yeah, we did touch on it early in the show. I don't know, is Malesh talking about, does he want to have like a race night with us? Like what's going on here?
I mean if he does, you've got your Discord. We organize.
We play regularly, yeah. So I don't know if we probably will end up playing this week, but just to recap, Malesh, Trackmania, completely free to play on PC only. I think he's got a PC. I don't know if he's an Xbox only person. Yeah, just a real fun racing game with regularly updated tracks, and I
guess it's just a bummer because he's in Australia, so kind of like
I don't
syncing
know.
up when we're playing and he's
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah, I mean, because I was going to say, I don't think it makes a difference with, the actual lag or anything. I don't think that
Oh,
it'd
no,
be
no,
a
no,
thing.
not in that. I think it's just like finding the,
Just in terms of timing, yeah.
common time, yeah.
Well, Malesh, we play Tuesdays and Thursday evenings.
When
so I don't
Matty
know.
is streaming, usually.
Yeah. Sure. If you are interested in playing, hit me up or hit us up, and we can always talk about it. See if we can do anything. We'll host in 3 months' time the Checkpoint Chat Invitational with no cash prizes, just glory. It's
We've
all
got
we
to
can
do
offer.
that. That sounds
It's
cool.
all
Like,
we can offer.
it reminds me of the local Rocket League tournament that happened when that game first launched.
Holy shit! I had to.
It was you,
admin
me,
that
and
thing.
Gavin. Oh, did you
Yeah.
admin that thing?
I admin that whole thing. That
Wait,
was,
did Lazy Gamer host that competition?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I'm totally misremembering who was in charge of that thing then.
No, that was us. We hosted it and we competed and we came second.
Did we come second? I
I
thought
think
we were
we
knocked
came
out like
second.
early day. I don't know. I remember having a lot of fun with that.
It is a good. Speaking of
was-
Rocket
yeah.
League, we should play Rocket League again. one day.
I think I mentioned a few months ago that we should get back into it, and I desperately still want to get back into it. That game fucking rules.
It's a good time.
I've been away for so long that
We'll probably be
it
trash.
will feel novel again. Yeah, we'll be 100% trash. Like, have you seen some people playing that game now? They are crazy good. Crazy good.
On Rocket League, there's some real good local streamers who play that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's Theed, there's Wizard of Oz, and I think there's a dude called Papa Capes who's also
Pepper Cakes.
like real good. Yeah.
Those are all three good names. I like that.
If you want to watch some local Rocket League streams, go find those dudes. They're real
Shout
cool,
out.
real good. Yeah, and that is all the questions we have. But you know what? I'm glad because we are 1 hour 41 into this episode already. So
well over time. But if you want to
Yeah.
send us questions next week, you can email us checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also message us on all our social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all of that. Good stuff. That's
all the
been
places.
episode 153 of Checkpoint Chat. If you're hearing this, thank you so much for listening. As always, like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if that exists on whatever platform you're listening to, just so we can reach good people like you. We can reach more good people like you. Grow this community. It'll be fantastic. We appreciate it. But out of anything, we appreciate you listening. And we'll be back next week.
Next week.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.